Begin the current Daf Masech Shabbos Daf Pei Zayin. Begin 6 lines down at the top of the Yomim. We're in the middle of a discussion regarding the famous machlekes regarding when is the real day of Shavuos. When is Kabbalah Satira? Is the Vav Sivan or Zayin Sivan? We're continuing on that discussion regarding the machlekes. Shabbos co-sponsor Bekazach and Yecheskel Torah Anytime. Rabbi Chaim, everyone that's joining us, and we greatly appreciate when everyone joins us. Some ideas we're going to be discussing today's Daf again, like we said, is machlekes Rabban and Rabbi Yesi. When did Bnei Yisrael receive the Torah at Har Sinai? That is regarding Matan Torah, regarding the days of the week. When did we come? Did we come to? Everyone agrees that we came a Rosh Chodesh, and everyone agrees that the Torah was given on Shabbos. The question, however, is when was Rosh Chodesh that year? Was it Sunday or was it Monday? And of course, then it's going to be the difference. How many days was it till Shabbos came around? Was it 6 days or 7 days? Another ideas we're going to be discussing today's Daf is Gimel Dvarim Asa Moshe Midaitiv Hiskim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There were three things that Moshe Rabbeinu did on his own, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed with him. One is that he added on a day to the separation, getting ready for Har Sinai. That where he separated from his own wife, and that of Shibra Saluchas, that he broke the luchas. Another important idea that's going to come up in this Daf is that the way the Jewish calendar works is that it's interesting. It's a combination of the lunar and the solar calendar. And that is, if we went just based on the lunar year is 354 days. The thing is that we'll talk about regarding the solar year and how that works well with the lunar year. But just this lunar year, it says if it was 350 days, then all the dates would always be on the same day. It would be 7 days times 50 weeks would be 350. That's exact cycles of 7. So if you had 1 year Pesach on the same day, it would be the same date every single year because it would be exactly a week. But then, since there's 354 days, you have 4 leftover days, and therefore, in a perfect year, you have the if Yom Tov of Pesach is on the Sunday. It's going to be 5 days later. It's going to be 4 days later. It's going to be on Thursday. Well, let's say this year is on Sunday. The previous year is going to be on Wednesday. It's always going to be a 4-year gap because you have extra 4 days from the weeks. Therefore, every single year it's going to be 4 days later. So begin the current Daf. And again, we're continuing from that discussion that we said. According to Rabbi Yesi, he held Rosh Chodesh Sivan was on Sunday. And that's the day we said that everyone agrees they came to the Midbar Sinai on the Rosh Chodesh, and that the Torah was given on Shabbos. The only question is, when was Rosh Chodesh? So when did they come? He held Rosh Chodesh Sivan was on Sunday. So hence, that means to say, if you count the amount of days, that Shabbos, which was everyone agrees Torah was given, was on Thursday. Additionally, that we explained the previous stuff, their machlekes is, when was the prisha done? Was the prisha from the wife done on Wednesday or on Thursday? According to Rabbi Yesi, it was on Wednesday, and therefore, that was the opinion of Allah we had started off with. We said, how many days is going to be the tumah of Pleita Shechva Zera? According to Rabbi Yesi, it's going to be for 3 days, because you see that they have to separate Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then on Shabbos, if a woman's Pleita Shechva Zera, so then it's not going to be a problem, because that's already on day 4. That was the opinion of Rabbi Yesi. According to Rabbanan, it was on Thursday, and therefore it was only a separation of 2 days, and they hold that on Thursday, on Shabbos, which is day 3, that's going to be tar because the tumah of Pleita Shechva Zera is only for 2 days. That was the machlekes we had in the previous stuff. And that's why Gemara continues and says Meisvei. Gemara has Rabbi Yesi, who holds that they have frasha from their wives who are on Wednesday, but it says in the pasuk, that you should sanctify, you should separate yourself today and tomorrow. Now, what does that sound like? The separation was on Thursday for Thursday and Friday. So that's Kashla Rabbi Yesi. That's difficult according to Rabbi Yesi, because according to him it was a 3-day separation, not a 2-day separation. I don't know if Rabbi Yesi would tell you that the truth is no. Like he said, as we have in the previous topic, that discussion, that it was on Wednesday, to separate for Wednesday and Thursday. Wait a second, Wednesday and Thursday, but they didn't get the Torah after that Thursday on Friday. It was given on Shabbos. So they ended up being separated from the wife for 3 days, but the Torah said to separate for 2 days. So that's the Rabbi Yisi would tell you, one day Moshe Rabbeinu added on from his own, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed with him. The Tanya, like we learned in the Brisa. Gimel Dvarim Asa Moshe Midaitiv. There are 3 things that Moshe Rabbeinu did on his own, and God agreed with him. What are the 3 things? Hashem told him to separate from the men from their wives before Mount Torah for 2 days, and he actually went and he separated them 3 days from their wives. This was that Moshe Rabbeinu himself separated from his wife forever after Mount Torah. Right after he separated from his friends, meaning when together with all of Klal Yisrael, that they separated from their wives before Mount Torah. So after Matan Torah, they went back to their wives. He never went back to have marital relations with his wife. And V'shibas haluchos, he broke the luchos, the famous Moshe Rabbeinu breaking the luchos. It was on his own that he decided that we're going to break the luchos. That's it. We're shattering the luchos after the Chet HaEgel when they came down from the 40 days of Har Sinai. How do we know these things? So the Gemara explains in detail. How do we know that he added on one day on his own? The Gemara says, my Darish. What did he expound? Where did he get this idea from? So it's because Hashem had told him, which, it's actually difficult. Hashem tells you today and tomorrow, what are you doing today, tomorrow, and the day after? So listen to the Lamdin that Moshe Rabbeinu was. He says, Hayayim kamacher. Today is like tomorrow. What does that mean? Ma'la macher, just like tomorrow. Leila imai, the night is with the day. It's going to be a full day because it's complete. Afayim, so also today has to be Leila imai, the night with it. But it's not possible. Why not? Because when Hashem told him on that day, that night had already gone already. So you're not going to be able to have Leila imai. Because Hashem is in the middle of the day. The Jewish day starts at the night before him. A full day has night and day. But he's speaking to them during the daytime. If he's speaking to them during the daytime, on Wednesday, he can't get the night before. Shema Minosa, Moshe Rabbeinu learned like this. Trei Yomi, Levar Me'idna. Must be 2 days besides for today. Because it has to be Leila Imai. So when Hashem says Hayayim Macher, it doesn't really mean today. And Taisa says it's not a full drasha. Rather, it's that he understands that it can't be today, literally, because the simple translation is that it was today. But Moshe Rabbeinu was learning up in the Lumdis, he says because if it was a real drasha, then it wasn't midaita. We're showing Taisa goes through to show each one that it was midaita. Because if it's a drasha, what do you mean? Hayayim Machra, Hayayim means Leila Imai. It's not really. Really, Hashem told him today. But Moshe Rabbeinu, for Lumdav in that way, he says, well, it has to be Leila Imai. And if it's not going to be, it's got to be 2 other days besides today. Therefore, it ended up being 3 days. That was where Moshe Rabbeinu was coming from. Now, says the Gemara, where do we know that God agreed with what he did? Says the Gemara, very simply. Look at the facts. The Leisharish, they're doing these fact checking on Trump, right? Look at the facts. The Leisharish Shechina Atzav the Shabbat. The Shechina did not rest until Shabbos in the morning. Hashem told him today and tomorrow. When did he tell him? On Wednesday. So it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But he told him only today and tomorrow. If it was the way God had told it to him, which was 2 days, Maimon Harsina would have been on Friday morning. Because that would have been already Hayim and Malchar on Wednesday, Thursday. From the fact that Hashem only brought the Shekhinah down at Shabbos in the morning, obviously he agreed with Moshe Rabbeinu that it has to be 3 days, which was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then Matan Torah was only on Shabbos. The third thing was the Pirush Min Isha. He separated from his wife forever. He never went back to his wife. Says the Gemara, my Darsh, what did he expound? Why did he do this? Says the Gemara, Nase Kabachim Ba'atzma. He made a Kabachim in himself, and Ami said as follows. Umay Yisrael, if the Jewish people, the divine presence only spoke with them for one moment, meaning it was a one-time thing. Maimon Har Sinai, all of Klal Yisrael at the foot of the mountain, the whole Jewish people, God spoke to them. Now, not only that, Hashem made a designated time when he was going to speak with them. They knew when it's going to be. And still, the Torah says, you should be prepared. I'll teach you, don't go near, that they should separate from their wives. Which, it was just a one-time thing, and they knew when it was going to be. And still you had to separate from your wife for 3 days. Sani, says Moshe Rabbeinu, every single moment the divine presence is speaking with me. Moreover, he doesn't set a time for me when he's going to speak to me, that I could then separate before. Hashem speak to me next Thursday. I got that in my book, I'm writing it down. Fine, I'll go to mikveh before and I'll separate. No, you can't, because he doesn't know when Hashem's going to speak to him. So Allah has kama v'kama, all the more so that I should go ahead and be separated from my wife, and therefore he never went back to his wife. Now Taisa says he says that, so why are you saying it midaitoi? That's obviously biblically obligated because it's a kabel chaim. You're allowed to make a kabel chaim on your own. Moshe Rabbeinu made a kabel chaim. Why is it midaitoi? So he says that no, it's not a real kabel chaimer, because maybe over there by Klal Yisrael is different because Aseres HaDibros. Aseres HaDibros, the 10 Commandments, everything's inside of there. So therefore, when Hashem's telling you the 10 Commandments, you got to be separate from your wife for 3 days. But regarding Moshe Rabbeinu talking with Hashem, who said that you can't have been in a state that you were just with your wife? Who said? Therefore, it wasn't a kabel chaim gemur, it was midaitoi, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu was masking with him. As the Gemara says, how do we know God agreed to him? Because the pasuk says in Devarim, Leich Emelahem, go tell them, Hashem told to Moshe Rabbeinu, go tell them, this was after Maimon Har Sinai, Shuv lechem lo leichem. Go back to your tents, meaning after Maimon Har Sinai, Hashem went explicitly to permit them to go back to have marital relations with their wives, which he had made forbidden before Maimon Har Sinai. Now, what does it say afterwards? In contrast, you Moshe, you stand over here with me, which means to say you're going to remain with me, that you're not going to go back to your wife like everyone else. Now Taisa actually asks, wait a second, how do you know that Moshe Rabbeinu went and he did on his own and then God agreed with him? Maybe this was a commandment from Hashem that he should separate. We just think more get this wrong, that Moshe Rabbeinu did it on his own and God agreed. What do you mean God agreed? God told him, you should not go back. So Ben Tam says that if you think it was because HaKadosh Baruch had commanded him and he didn't do it on his own, how could Aaron and Miriam go ahead and talk about Moshe Rabbeinu and say, what's going on? He's not with his wife. Who does he think he is? He thinks he's better than everyone else. Obviously, because Moshe Rabbeinu originally did on his own. And here's a famous concept that the Bali Musa, like Bal Machshava, like from this taste, it says, even though God agreed with Moshe Rabbeinu, they still had tightness against him, because if he had not done it on his own, God would not have agreed with him. Because when you want to do something, God himself tells you to do it. The Hasidic, I think they also dwell on this thesis, that it's obviously because you wanted to do it. And yeah, Hashem then tells you. The Rebbeinu Shem gave him a tzivah, but it's you who wanted to do it. Therefore, Aaron and Miriam were upset that why do you separate? Because Aaron and Miriam themselves also knew that God was going to speak with them. He spoke with them too. But they didn't want to separate, so God didn't tell them to separate. It's a deep idea that we see from this Rabbeinu Tam and the Sugya. But Tais has one more question. He says, sounds like in the Medrash, that Aaron and Miriam didn't really know that he had separated from his wife. As the story by Elder and Meidud, when they were saying the prophecies, and Miriam said, oh, how lucky are the wives of these, that their husbands are going to be leaders of the Jewish people, that they said in Nevuah. And Tzipora, the wife of Moshe Rabbeinu, says, the day that the divine presence started talking with my husband, your brother, I never saw him anymore. He stopped coming home. So then Aaron and Miriam started talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. What's going on? I didn't know this about him. I couldn't believe my brother, the great Moshe. So something they didn't know about it. Now the problem is, how could they not know? If it's based on the pasuk of Ata Poya Moida Modi, then they should have known this, that Hashem told them to be separated. So Ben Tam says, no, they did know about it, but they thought that he had separated because Hashem had commanded, until they realized from Tzipora, he did this on his own. He decides, he comes home to his wife and says, look, sorry, I'm not going to be available anymore. I have a higher calling. So then Hashem came and told them, okay, you're the man. Ata Poya Moida Modi. And then they heard about that only years later. They thought he had to be commanded. And then they heard it. It's like, so you see the reaction of people. One Miriam, you see the reaction about, you're so lucky, your husband, he's the guy. I said, no, it's not what it's all cut out to be. And that's what they started talking about him. But we see that actually they were incorrect. There's actually, there are those who say that the source how we see that actually that Hashem agreed was because that story of Aaron and Miriam, when they started talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, why is he separating from his wife? This is not normal. You're supposed to be a normal person like everybody else. We also, Hashem talks to us. And what does Hashem rebuke them? He said, Pal, Dababoy. I talk to mouth. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's not like everybody else. And therefore we see that in that story itself, when Aaron and Miriam were complaining about that he separated from his wife, Hashem rebuked them. So you see, Hashem agreed to Moshe Rabbeinu that he went and he was purged from his wife. So we see that thing also that Hashem agreed to. And the third thing was Shibas HaLuchas. He broke the Luchas, as we know that right after Mount Torah, he went up to receive the Torah, and the Jewish people went and did the Egel, the golden calf. He came down, and he saw that, and he broke the Luchas. Says Mamaidosh, what do you explain? Where do you get this idea from? To break the 10 Commandments, to break the Luchas? Somebody said as follows, says, Ma Pesach, if the carbon Pesach, so Echad Mitargim, it says only one of the 613 commandments. Still, Amr Torah says in Shemais v'chol ben neichel lo yechel boy, any foreign son should not eat it. What does it mean, a foreign son? It means a mummer, someone who is nisnachru maisav, la'avish b'shamayim. His actions have become foreign to his Father in heaven. Meaning he's a rebellious Jew. He doesn't keep the Torah, and the Torah says he's not allowed to go ahead and eat the Korban Pesach. That's for one mitzvah. If you're rebellious, you can't do that mitzvah. So HaTorah Kulakan, the whole Torah is here. As Rashi says, the whole Torah is dependent on the Luchas. As we know, the famous Reb Sadia going that shows that all the Torah mitzvahs you could see in the Aseret HaDibros. In the Aseret HaDibros, all the Torah mitzvahs are there. And Yisrael Mumar, when the Jewish people are rebelling over here, they're worshiping the golden calf. A lot of it's come of Akama, all the more so that it's not worthy for them to get the Torah, and therefore he goes and he breaks the Luchas. Which here also says Taisa, it's not a bonafide Kavachem, because Taisa addressing the question. What's bothering Taisa is that what it means to Kavachemer. So why is Midaitai? Is because no, if a mummer is forbidden the carbon Pesach, which is a carbon, that doesn't mean that he should have held back the Jewish people from getting the Torah, which in itself would have helped them repent and come back and do the right thing. So it's not a bonafide Kavachemer, but he did it on his own knowledge. Where do we know that God agreed with him? It says in the pasuk, Asher Shibarta, when Hashem was talking to Moshe Rabbeinu about what he had done, he says that regarding the luchas that you broke, but the Amar Shlakish, he says the word Asher could be expounded, Yasher Keichacha, this is where the terminology, the famous Yasher Keich comes from, Yasher Keichacha, your strength should be strengthened. Sheshibarta, that you broke, I mean the word Asher could be read as Ishur, which is an affirmation, which is saying that it's actually correct what you had done, that he praised him for breaking it, that we see that Hashem agreed to him. Now we continue with this machlekes. We had brought this in because of the discussion regarding the machlekes of Rabbi Yossi, and because we had said the answer for Rabbi Yossi, although it says Hayim Macher, we said it's not difficult to him because yes, Hashem told him 2 days, but he went at a third day. So that was why we brought in this brace and discussed 3 things he did on his own, one of them being Leisa B'Mechel Medaita. But we continue this machlekes in the previous Daf Tashma regarding of when was Rish Chodesh and when was the Prisha done regarding, so it says in the pasuk, now the Rashi points out the Girs is important over here because we actually had a different pasuk in the Mishnah. It says you should be ready for the 3rd day. Now the Rashi has not to have the Girs of because that actually sounds like that they were separated for 3 days and then the Torah was given on the 4th day. Sounds like on the day 3, meaning you're separating from your wife today. You should be prepared for the 3rd day. On the 3rd day, when you're separated, that's when the Torah is going to be given. Says the Gemara, Kash Rabbi Yossi, it's difficult on Rabbi Yossi. Because according to Rabbi Yossi, the Torah wasn't given on the 3rd day when they separated. It was given on the 4th day. According to Rabbi Yossi, the separation was done on Wednesday. So then Thursday, Friday, and then Shabbos on day 4. According to the Rabbanan, the Prisha was on Thursday. So yeah, 1 day, 2 days. On the 3rd day was when the L'Yom HaShlishi, you should be prepared. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's not on L'Yom HaShlishi, it's L'Yom HaRevi'i, because it was 3 days of separation. On the 4th day it was given. So the Gemara, but we just said you're right. 1 day Moshe Rabbeinu added on his own. And this pasuk about L'Yom HaShlishi, be prepared for the 3rd day. That was what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Jewish people different words. He says, he didn't say L'Yom HaShlishi. He says L'Shleishes Yom means to say for a trilogy of days, meaning the separation was 3 days, not to be on the 3rd day. Now, the pasuk that says after that, Rashi addresses the question. It says V'Yi B'Yom HaShlishi B'Yisablik. It says it was on the 3rd day in the morning that the Torah was given. So that Rashi explains that means 3 whole days, which has Leila Imai. Leila Imai, 3 days, that was similar to the answer the Gemara had previously given. It means on the 3rd day of when it was full days, because the first day he spoke to him was a half a day. It was during the daytime, not the Leila Imai. So that's what Rashi says, that's what it would mean, that on the 3rd day. But according to Rabbanan, according to Rabbi Yossi, it was on day 4, not on day 3. Now the Gemara says Tashma. This is what this slide is basically addressing. We learned in the Brisa the following words. Shlishi, when it says in the Torah, the 3rd day, which Gemara later on is going to explain, what's this, when we talk about this word shlishi, what's it referring to? Well, it's obviously referring to a 3rd of something, but it says on that shlishi, it was shlishi b'chodesh, it was the 3rd day of the month, which is the shlishi b'Shabbos, which is the 3rd day of the week. Says the Gemara, Kash Rabbanan. That's obviously difficult according to Rabbanan, because they said, as we explained in the previous Daf, that on Sunday was Rish Chodesh, because if Zayin Sivan is when the Torah was given, and they came on Rish Chodesh. So he said, obviously, then Rish Chodesh was on Sunday. But obviously, then that means to say on a Monday, you had the Atam Tiyudu Mamlechas Kohanim. On Tuesday, you had the mitzvah of Agbola, of separating them, that there should be boundaries around Har Sinai. And on the 4th day, on Wednesday, was the Prisha. And on the 7th day was when the Torah was given. Because like we said, according to everyone, Shabbos was given the Torah was given on Shabbos. But here you see that the 3rd day of the month was actually the 3rd day of the week. The difficulty is, according to them, it's not the 3rd day. It's the question is regarding it wasn't the 3rd day of the week. According to them, it was the 3rd day of it was the 4th day of the week. It was on the Wednesday, and on Shabbos the Torah was given. So that contradicts their opinion that here we're saying the 3rd day of the week is the 3rd day of the month. That's like Rabbi Yossi. But I'm tell you, Hamani, who's the town of this price, is Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara is not difficult on them. It's actually like their dispute. But now the Gemara wants to introduce this, says, okay, Shlishi Lamai. When the first Shlishi, we said 3 Shlishi. Shlishi was Shlishi b'Chodesh, was Shlishi b'Shabbos. Now, what Shlishi is that? Not can't be the third day of the week. You're already saying Shlishi b'Shabbat. It can't be the third day of the month because you're saying that Shlishi b'Chodesh. So what is a third of what? Says the only time like learn the Brisa. What the Brisa is coming to tell you is the third day from when Moshe Rabbeinu started to have what's called starting the conversation. When you have a big life decision, we're going to start the conversation. We're talking about moving. We're going to open up the conversation. The day 3 from when Moshe Rabbeinu started to talk to the Jewish people, to separate them from the bad things, to not to get punishments, and to tell them the reward of about keeping the Torah. That was the third day of the month, which was the third day of the week. Like we said, this is Rabbi Yossi, who he holds that on Tuesday was Rosh Chodesh, Sunday was Rosh Chodesh. So day 3 was Tuesday. That was the third day of the month. It was the third day of the week, and therefore that's why it was Zayin Sivan on Shabbos. So we learn the Brisa like this. It says, "Vayashem Meisa." This is some of the ideas we had spoken about previously. The Gemara is going to explain the Psukim. It says, "Vayashem Meisha's Divrei Amal Hashem." It says that Moshe Rabbeinu returned the words of the people to Hashem. It says after that, next pasuk, "Vayagid Meisha's Divrei Amal Hashem." The Moshe Rabbeinu said the words of the people to Hashem. Now, the difficulty of the Gemara is, actually, I'll read the Psukim out so you'll understand a little bit of the context. It's actually a beautiful piece from in Likutei Moharan, Ter Kot Sadi, on this Gemara over here, going through these two Psukim that we're discussing over here. It says like this, it's a very uncommon piece that he has over this, like Mamash, like Pshat. So the two Psukim are like this. It says, the people responded all together. But Yomim, they said, whatever Hashem had said, we're going to do. And it says, that Moshe Rabbeinu returned the words of the people to Hashem. And that was a response to when he says the previous day what Hashem had told him. That's where they responded. Now the next pasuk says, Hashem said to Moshe, I'm going to come to you in a thick cloud, that the people should hear when I'm talking with you. And they're also going to believe in you. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, returned the words of the people to Hashem. So the Gemara asks, between Vayashem Moshe, between when the people said, we're going to do Nasa, that's not where the Nasa Nishma was recorded. They said Nasa. And where they said Vayagid Moshe, and that then he returned what the words of the people was to Hashem, it doesn't say anything that Hashem told to Moshe anything. What was Moshe Rabbeinu telling to the Jewish people? What would the Jewish people respond to Moshe regarding? What did he tell them? All he said was coming to them in the cloud. What are they saying? Yeah, we agree. What are you agreeing to? What are you responding to? And what did Moshe Rabbeinu respond in front of Hashem? That Moshe Rabbeinu had to tell Hashem, but there was nothing said. All he said was, so what are they responding to? So on this we already spoke about, the Gemara is going through it over here in this Brisa, Zum Mitzvah's Hagbala. That, as Rashi explains, although the mitzvah of fencing off Har Sinai was written after the mitzvah of Prisha, of separating from their wives, but as we had previously explained from Rashi in the top of the summit from the previous Daf, that it was actually on day 3. And they had to respond from day 3, and on day 4 in the morning, Moshe Rabbeinu goes back to Hashem before he tells them to do the Afresh, which is on day 4. On day 3, he says, he tells the Jewish people, we're going to have to make fences around Har Sinai. They say, whatever it is, Hashem's coming in the cloud, and we're going to make fences, although it doesn't say that. That's what was said. And then Moshe Rabbeinu returns that thing that they agreed to have the fences around. And then day 4 he comes and tells them about the hafrasha if they separate from their wives. So that, the mitzvah of Agbala, that's the Rabbi Yehuda, that's what was told and that's what they agreed. Although it doesn't say it in the pasuk, if you read the psukim, you don't really understand what it's talking about. That's what it's referring to, the mitzvah of Agbala. Now, but then the Brisa continues, which actually the primary reason why we're bringing the Brisa is for the next two interpretations about Vayashiv and Vayagid. Rabbi Yomi, he says, B'tchila, because it's just saying about the conversation that started earlier. B'tchila Pirish Einsha, in the beginning, the first thing when Moshe Rabbeinu opened up the conversation with the Jewish people, he started talking about the punishments, what happens if you don't keep the Torah. That's like it said in the pasuk, Vayashiv Moshe. What is Vayashiv Moshe? There's two psukim. The first one is Vayashiv, the second one is Vayagid. So we see the beginning was Vayashiv, and then was Vayagid. What's Vayashiv? It's Dvarim Shemeshav Daik Tishaladin. It's words that repel a person. Like you have a pasuk, Vayelech Shleiviv and Yeshaya. It means it pushes a person back from accepting. Because if they're going to accept the Torah, they're going to be punished. So it's Mishav in their lave, it repels their heart from Hashem, and even so they accepted the Torah. And that's actually one of the proofs, again, that they bring from the discovery seminars. They say, what do you mean? If there's no oral law, it's just a written law, so Moshe Rabbeinu says that this is what it means, why should we listen to you? And if you don't, you're going to die, you're going to get cursed. What does that mean? All the things that we're hearing about was crazy punishment, skila, herek, chanek, who would want to do such a thing? And you see, in spite of the fact that it was Meshav and Shaladim, they accepted it. Now, the Saif, Pirush Matan Schar, at the end, then they were told the great reward. So like it says in the Pasuk, V'yagid Moshe. What's V'yagid? Dvarim shemoishchen liba shaladim k'agada. They are words that they tug a person like agada. Some people love Hamalatic teachings. It's light, it's geschmack, it draws a person, pulls you in. So that was first mishavin, and then it was k'agada. Those say actually was the exact opposite. That is, B'tchila, in the beginning, Pirush Matan Schar. First he said the great reward. Like it says in Pasuk, Yashem Moshe. What does the Yashem Moshe mean? Dvarim shemeshiven da'it shaladim. Things that restore a person's consciousness. A person who wants to become regulated, calm down. So then you tell them things that are calming, that are soothing, that are like, it's amazing, you don't know what it's going to be like. Well, then later on, he said the punishments. That's like it says in the Pasuk, V'yagid Moshe. What's V'yagid? Dvarim shekashim lo b'kigidim. Things that are harsh to a person like Gidon, which Rashi explains as bitter herbs, are called Gidon. So therefore, again, that's the opposite interpretations. Either first words that repel and then things that draw, or first draw and then repel, be that as it may. Those are two things. But one thing is, you see that the conversation was started earlier. So it's saying from day 3, when they started the conversation, that was the 3rd day of the week, which was the 3rd day of the month. And that was, according to one interpretation, the mitzvah of Hagbalah. But again, that's what the Brisa means. According to, we said the Brisa is going like Rabbi Yasi. According to Rabbi Yasi, Hamani Rabbi Yasi, that was saying that day 3 means the day 3 of when the conversation had started. But the Gemara continues asking Tashema. Another question from a Brisa on this Malchik is Rabbi Yasi and Rabbanan. Sounds similar. Shishi says the 6th. It says 6th. Now, which the Brisa says that's Shisha B'Chodesh. That was the 6th day of the month. Which was Shisha B'Shabbos, which was the 6th day of the week. Which shortly the Gemara is going to ask, what does it mean? Shishi Lamai, a 6th day of what? So it says the Gemara first, but however the difficulty is Kasha Rabbanan. Again, we have a difficulty in Rabbanan, because it sounds like that on Sunday was Rish Chodesh, because we see that Thursday is the 7th day is Shabbos. According to their opinion, it was on Monday. And here we see that the 6th day of the week is the 6th day of the month. So the Gemara Hanami, Rabbi Yasi, you're right, it's going like Rabbi Yasi. But now that the Gemara introduced here also the Brisa, it says Shishi Lamai. It's the 6th of what? In other words, the Rashi explains, here you can't say, like we said regarding Shlishi, that it was the 3rd day of the conversation, here it's the 6th day of the conversation, because as Rashi says, no, the 3rd day, that we could say that was part of the conversation, because Moshe Rabbeinu was still talking to them about these topics. One day he was telling about your Mamlachas Kainim, next day he tells them that, okay, you got to do Mitzvah Balo, next day he says Mitzvah Frasha. So he's having an ongoing dialogue with the Jewish people. So Shlishi would make sense. It's the 3rd day of the conversation. First day he opens up, he starts telling about all the punishments. Next day he comes and tells them, look guys, you don't know what you're going to get. This is bliss for eternity. Next day he comes and he says something else. So it's the 3rd day of the conversation. But here, he's not talking with them anymore. Because he's already done with the conversation. V'yagid Moshe was on the 4th day, and for the things that he accepted on the 3rd day, then he was done. He stopped telling them things. So what does it mean it's the 6th of what? So says the Gemara, Rav Amei says, it's the 6th of Ezekitinta Mebezel Chaniyasim, for their resting, for their encampment. Meaning, a Rish Chodesh is when they encamped in Midbar Sinai, and what the Brisa is saying is the 6th day when they encamped was the 6th day of the month, which was the 6th day of the week. Yeah, which is like Rabbi Yasi. According to Rabbanan, it was not, but that's what we're saying, that according to Rabbi Yasi, it's because according to Rabbanan it was day 5, according to Rabbi Yasi was day 6, and then according to Rabbi Yasi, Matan Torah on Shabbos was on day 7. Now Rav Achim Yaakov says something very similar, but the Gemara shows that they're disagreeing. It's day 6 L'masan, meaning even from the day that they left, the day they came to Midbar Sinai was exactly the day that they left from Refidim. So when they came, that's the same day that they left. Says the Gemara of Kamilvagi, and this machlekes of Rav Achim and Rava is in the mitzvah of B'Shabbos. The mitzvah of keeping Shabbos that was told to them, the Mara, before Matan Torah, they already commanded on a few mitzvahs. And in Mara, they were commanded regarding the mitzvah of Shabbos. In Mara, where they commanded also regarding the Tchum of Shabbos, regarding that you can't walk beyond a certain boundary, that's their machlekes. Because the Chsiv, like the Pasuk says, in what's called the Dibros Achreinis, the later tablets, it's the first luchas said Zoches Yom Shabbos Akache, the second luchas said Shomes Yom Shabbos Akache. So in those luchas it says Kashet Tzivcha Hashem Lekecha, you should keep Shabbos like Hashem your God commanded you. Now that sounds like that before the Dibros were ever given you, you already were commanded beforehand. So what does that mean? It means to say, V'amar Yehuda Marav, Kashet Tzivcha B'Mara. Like he commanded you by Mara, like the Pasuk says, Shemais Tetzvav, Sham Sam Leichal Kamishpat, that in Mara there were certain mitzvahs already given. And one of the mitzvahs was Shabbos. But this machlok is exactly the parameters of the mitzvah Shabbos that was told to them by Mar. Mar Sava Rava held a Shabbos ifkin. Regarding Lamates Malachas, that they were commanded. At Tchumen la ifkin. Regarding the mitzvah of Tchumen, they weren't commanded. Yes, so therefore the day they left Refidim, they left on Shabbos because they were not forewarned to go more than the 2,000 Amos. So therefore, that same day that they left was the same day that they came. But Amar Sava, the other master held, so therefore, that again, to the contrary, so it couldn't have been the same. It was not the same day. They left on Shabbos and they arrived on Sunday. But Amar Sava, the other master held, at Tchumen Nami, if you know, they were commanded regarding the Tchumen. So therefore, they left on Sunday and they came on Sunday. That's what the machlek is dependent on. Were they able to be traveling on Shabbos chutz l'tchum? That's machlek is regarding what was the mitzvah by Mar. Tashma learned the brisa that Nisan Shabai Yatsu Yisrael Mitzrayim. Here we get a little bit into calculations, and we'll get later on to some other calculations. But this is going to be, if you're looking at the chart, it's on this part of the chart. So the brisa is like this: Nisan Shabai Yatsu Yisrael Mitzrayim. Nisan, the year that the Jewish people left from Egypt. Barba Aser Shachtu B'Schein. On the 14th of Nisan is when they slaughtered the Korban Pesach. On the 15th of Nisan is when they left. And that evening, the firstborns were killed. Now the Gemara jumps in. That sounds like Erev sounds like the coming evening. The night after the 15th of Nisan is when the firstborn died, but it's not the case. It was before they left. So the Gemara amends the brayso that say mid be'erev loku b'chayres. From the evening, from Chatzais, is when the firstborns died, and then that morning is when they left Mitzrayim. Now, that day, meaning Pesach, that year, the 15th of Nisan, was Chamisha b'Shabbos, it was on a Thursday. Oh, so that's what the brisa says. Then the Gemara develops the proof. Mid'chameisa ben-Nisan. If you have to just a whole couple of it just for simple calculations of the moon. Mid'chameisa ben-Nisan. The fact that the 15th of Nisan, which was what Pesach is on the 15th of Nisan, was Chamisha b'Shabbos, which was on a Thursday that year when they left Mitzrayim. So that means to say Rish Yarcha the year. That means to say Rish Chodesh Iyar was Shabbat, is Shabbos. As Rashi explains, Nisan is always what's called Mali. A month could be either Chasr or Mali, it could be either 29 days or 30 days. So a Nisan is always a full, which means to say that 16 days later is when you're coming to, because it's going to be 15, it's already the 15th of the month, another 15 days to fill up the month. That means say the next month, Rish Chodesh Iyar, is going to be on Shabbos. Now, the Rish Yarcha Sivan, that then tells us that Rish Chodesh Sivan was Chad b'Shabbos, was on the Sunday, because as the Bach adds on to the words of Rashi, Iyar is always Chasr, if you go in the proper order. So that's 29 days. So it comes out, 28 is full weeks, 7 times 4, so that's going to be the same day. And then one more day for 29 is going to push you from Shabbos to Sunday. So Kash Rabbanon, that's the going to Rabbanon. The Rabbanon said that Rish Chodesh was on Monday. That's why they hold that Shabbos when it was given was the 6th of Sivan. But we see that Rish Chodesh was on Sunday. Do a basic calculation. If we said if Pesach was on a Thursday, it's going to come out that Rish Chodesh Sivan was on a Sunday, not like the way the Rabbanon hold. So not Amlach Rabbanon, but I'm going to tell you, no, Iyar da Hishata Iyar, from that year when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, Abure Abrua. It was a full, meaning they extended the month, and yes, it was a day later because Iyar wasn't the way it normally is, which is 29 days. That time was 30 days. So it comes out, Rish Chodesh Sivan was on a Monday. But then the Gemara says, no, Tashma, come in here, I'll bring you raya. It can't be like you just answered. The Lo Yibru that they did not make Iyar that year a full month. Why? Because that same brisa we quoted before, we're going to quote it again, and we're going to say the end part of it. It says, Nisan Shabai Yatsu Yisrael Mitzrayim, Nisan that year when the Jewish people left Egypt, Barba Aser Shachtu B'Schein. On the 14th of Nisan is when they shechted the Korban Pesach. V'chamisha Aser Yatsu, and they left on the 15th of Nisan. Well, the Erev Loka B'Chayres, and in the evening, the firstborn will kill. Here also the Gemara says, Erev Sekadaytach, do you think it was on the next evening? El-Imer had the same Mibba Erev Loka B'Chayres, from the previous evening is when the firstborns were killed. Now, that day, when they left Mitzrayim, Chamisha B'Shabbos was on a Thursday. Now, just interesting to point out, Taisus says, so it comes out that on Wednesday is when they shechted the Korban Pesach. If Pesach was on Thursday, that means the day before the 14th of Nisan, was on a Wednesday. So it comes out that the previous Shabbos, when they took the Korban Pesach, because the mitzvah that year was Ba'asal HaChodesh, you were supposed to take the Korban Pesach on the 10th of the month. That is why we call it Shabbos HaGadol, because the great miracle that happened, like the Medrash, Taisa quotes the Medrash that says when they took the Korban Pesach that year on Shabbos, so all the firstborns of the nations of the world that were there in Mitzrayim came to the Jewish people and says, what are you doing this for? Why are you taking this lamb and tying it to your bed? So they said to them, look, this is a Korban Pesach for our Hashem, that he's going to kill the firstborns of Egypt, all the firstborns, on the night of Pesach. So they went to their fathers, they went to Paro, they went to on City Hall, and they started saying, send the Jewish people, and they didn't want to. So the firstborns made a civil war, and they killed so many Egyptians, and that's what we say in Hoidu. We say in the davening, Lamakim Mitzrayim bivchareihem. What does that mean? Lamakim Mitzrayim bivchareihem. He killed the Egyptians bivchareihem through the firstborns. The firstborns waged a mighty civil war before the Jewish people left out. That's why it's called Shabbos HaGadol, because the Asar LaChodesh was that Shabbos, which was when this whole miracle happened, that the Egyptians waged the civil war with their fathers and with Paro. That's because of, that year was on a Thursday, and then that means to say the day before was when they were shechting Korban Pesach, which that 4 days before that was on the Shabbos. But be that as it may, the Brisa continues and says, and this is an important part, up until now we had quoted this part, but Hishlim, Nisan, the Brisa says that Nisan was completed, meaning it filled up, which is 30 days. Ve'ira, least is Shabbos, and the Brisa says an Iyar came out to be the Rosh Chodesh Iyar on Shabbos. It continues the Brisa, Chaser Iyar was in the normal way as it normally is that year, which was only 29 days. The year is Sivan Li's back in Shabbos, and it comes out, says the Brisa clearly, that Rosh Chodesh was on a Sunday. So Kash Rabbanan, you see Dibur on Rabbanan, wasn't a full month, it was on Sunday. It says the Gemara Hamani, you're right, who's the time of the Brisa? Rabbi Yisi, it's like Rabbi Yisi, and there was not Dibur on Rabbanan. Yeah, that's their disagreement regarding when was Rosh Chodesh. Mamra Papa continues, says Toshma, let's bring a raya where the Brisa quotes a pasuk in Shemais. It says Vayisu me'elam, that they journeyed from Elam. By Yuvoyu Koladas B'nei Yisrael B'Grim, and the whole assembly of the Jewish people, they came to what's called Midbar Sin, not Sinai, Midbar Sin, which was B'chamisha Asr Yoim L'Chodesh Hasheni. It was on the 15th of the second month. Now, V'Oisa HaYoim Shabbos Hayom. The Gemara develops the proof of the Brisa explains that day was Shabbos. Why? Because the Chesiv says in the pasuk, Uvoika Re'isim Es Kavod Hashem. In the morning, you're going to see the glory of Hashem, which Rashi gives the context to this story, what was going on. The Jewish people were complaining about the food, which they had nothing, they were complaining about the month. It says, they went and they complained against Moshe Rabbeinu, what, are you going to kill all the people here on a famine, we have nothing to eat. So Moshe Rabbeinu guaranteed them the next day is when the month is going to start coming down, which that's because this was 30 days after they left Mitzrayim. This was the 15th day of the second month. They left the 15th day of the first month. 30 days, this is during Severe Saim, if you just want to get context. 30 days after they left, this is on Shabbos, they're complaining, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, don't worry, tomorrow Hashem's going to start sending down the month. Now, what does it say in the pasuk? He tells the Jewish people, Sheish Yom Til Katur. For 6 days, you're going to gather it, and then on the 7th day after, it's going to stop, and there's not going to be any month. Now, says the Gemara, if the 15th of Iyar was on the Shabbos, and how do we know it was the Shabbos? Like we said, because he told them for 6 days, starting tomorrow, for 6 days you're going to gather it. On the Shabbos they didn't gather it, the 7th day you're going to stop. Obviously that means to say he's telling them on Shabbos, this story is the next day on Sunday. And so that's on the 15th of Sivan, as the pasuk says, which was 30 days after they left Mitzrayim. So if the 15th of Iyar was on Shabbos, so that means Rish Yarchad the Sivan, that means say Rish Chodesh Sivan, because if you're going to complete the month of Iyar until 15 days, the 15th day, because Iyar is Chaser, then you say 15 days later is Rish Chodesh Sivan, so that's Chad B'Shabbos. 15 days, 14 days would take you exactly to the same day. 15 days can take you 1 day later, so you're going to be on a Sunday. Kash Rabbanan, Tzibikon Rabbanan, who says that Rosh Chodesh is not on a Sunday on that year, even it was on Monday. So I'm going to tell you, no, Iyar that Hishata, Iyar of that year was was a full month. And therefore, it was 30 days, so it was actually 1 day later, so it wasn't on Sunday, it was on a Monday. So on that, Amalei Rav Chaviv Mechazin El Rav Ashi says, Tashma, I'll bring a raya from the following pasuk in Shemais. The Brisa quotes, the pasuk says, that it was on the first month, Vashan Hashenis, now we're already in the second year, or when the Jewish people, they were in the midbar for 40 years. Up until now, we were only discussing the first year, first 30 days, the 50 days, going up to Har Sinai. Now we're already in the second year. The Echad HaChodesh, the first of the month, and we said it's basically Aleph Nisan, we're saying it's the first month of the second year, and it was the first day of that month. Hukum HaMishkan, the Mishkan was put up on Aleph Nisan, of the second year that the Jewish people had left Mitzrayim. Now, Tanel in the Brisa, that day, Notel Eser Atars took 10 crowns, which means to say there were 10 things that began on that day. That was the first of those things. What does that mean? It was Rishon L'Ma'aseh Bereishis. That day was a Sunday, which is the first of the creation of the world. A Sunday, Yom Rishon is the day the world began. Now, it's also Rishon L'Nesim. It was the first day that the Nesim started bringing their karbanis, as we lane, a lot of shuls lane on those days of Nisan. Because in the scene, for those 12 days, they brought karbanis for the Chanukas Habayis. That day was the first carbon brought by the princes of each tribe. It was also Rishon LeKahuna. That day, which was what's called Shmini Lemeluim, was the first day that Aaron and his sons did the Avodah. Because up until that point, it was actually done by the Becharis, by the firstborns. So the 8th day of the Miluim, which was when the Mishkan was finally erected, was the first day that the Kahanim were doing the Avodah. It was also Rishon Avodah. It was the first day of doing the order of the Avodah Satzibur. I mean, they had been bringing karbanos in those 7 days, but it was the first day you bring the karban tamid, and all the other karbanos coming from the Trumas Alishka, which is the service that was done every single day in the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. It was also recently read this Eish. It was the first day that the fire came down from heaven, like it says in the Yikar Test. But that was the first day that a fire came down from heaven and consumed the food. It was also Rishon Achilas Kachim. It was the first day of them consuming kachim, which as Rashi explains, meaning eating kachim in the mechitzas that had to be within the curtains, because up until that point they were eating whatever they wanted to. It was also Rishon Lishka and Shechina. It was the first day that the divine presence rested amongst the Jewish people. The divine presence rested over there in the Mishkan, where it says V'shechanti b'seichem, which the inference says up until that point the divine presence did not rest over there. It was also Rishon Levarches Yisrael. It was the first day that the Kahanim did what's called Birchas Kahanim, that they benched the Jewish people. Like it says, B'Yisrael and Yodav, that was done on the Shmini Lameluim on that first day. It was also Rishon Isra Bamas. It was the first day that Bamas, private altars, were outlawed and forbidden, because up until that point, it was actually not forbidden. It's only now, where now you could bring it to Pesach El-Moed, the pasuk that says that the prohibition of bringing a Bama, it says, for Pesach El-Moed Levi, and you don't bring it to the El-Moed, oh, you're going to get punished for bringing on your private altar. The inference is only when there's Pesach El-Moed. Before the Pesach El-Moed, on that day, you're able to have your private altars. And it was also Rishon LeChadashim, was the first of the months, because it was Rosh Chodesh, it was Nisan, and it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so it was the beginning of the month. It had all these 10 crowns. Now, but one thing the Gemara wants from this price is if Rosh Chodesh Nisan of that year, meaning the second year when they left Mitzrayim, when the Mishkan was erected, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, like we just pointed out in this price, was Chad b'Shabbos, was on the Sunday. So here's where we come to the following idea. As we mentioned in the introduction, the Jewish calendar, like we said, is a lunar year. It goes primarily on the months. Now, the thing is that a lunar year is 354 days. If it would be 350 days, you would know that every single year, everything's going to come out on the same day. Your anniversary is always going to be on the Sunday. You'll always know because it's perfect weeks. The thing is, it's not. It's 354 days. So sorry, you have to remember your anniversary, and you'll have to remember exactly what day it actually is. And maybe Hashem did it on purpose because he wants to actually tune in a little bit. But the point is, there's a 4-day discrepancy between that of 1 year and the other year. So you could think of that forward or backwards. I mean to say, if let's say this year, Pesach, let's say Shavuos is going to be on a Friday. So then for next year, in a perfect year, you're going to add on 4 more days. So there's Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's going to come out on the Tuesday the next year. Now, if you think about it in backwards, if you're saying this year it's on the Friday, so what was it last year if it was a perfect year? It's not necessarily how our calendars are, but that's what the perfect year about how the calendars normally go, is you would go backwards. You go, okay, that means if this year is Friday, that means last year was Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. That's how it would go. Now, so therefore, the Gemara has the following discussion. It says, wait a second. If you're telling me that Rosh Chodesh Nisan of the second year was on a Sunday, so obviously the Ishtakit from the previous year must have been B'Daled B'Shabbos, must have been on a Wednesday. Why? Because it's trying to learn the Braysa. Remember, the others, they say, Ein bein atzeres la'atzeres. There's no difference between 1 year Shavuos and the next year's Shavuos. Ve'ein bein Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. There's no difference between 1 year Rosh Hashanah and another Rosh Hashanah. Ela dal yom b'lvad. Only a period of 4 days. Because when you're going to set the months in the order, 1 mali, 1 chasr, so you're going to have 4 days from 1 year to the next year, like we said, because the days of the moon are 354, and they're all cycles of 7, besides for an extra 4 days. Now, the other idea is like this, is that v'mhaisa shanamu beres, but if let's say it was a leap year, then it's going to be hay, which the idea of that is that what happens is that not just being a lunar year, the Jewish calendar is also calculated as with a solar calendar, which means to say, Chodesh HaAviv tells you about Pesach, it has to be in the summer months. The problem is, you go based on lunar year, you'll see that the cycles, you're going to end up Pesach going to be in the middle of the winter, it could be in the middle of summer, it could be anywhere, because you keep on losing pace. So it's something called Ibriya, a leap year, which you add on the whole month. Now, that month that's added on, as Rashi explains, this Tana holds that the 2 others, you make them chaser. So what's going to come out is that if you have an Ibriyar, instead of being 4 days later, the next year is going to be 5 days later, because the two others, the Adar always is going to be 29 days, but the extra Adar is also going to be 29 days. So the 28 days you're not counting, because that's going to be exactly cycle of 7. It's going to be pushed 1 day later the next year from the extra day of 29. So that's going to be 5 days. But one thing, the Gemara's question is like this. Havalei, but it comes out that if you're telling me that Rosh Chodesh Nisan was on a Wednesday of the first year, how do we know Rosh Chodesh Nisan was on a Wednesday? Because the next year it's on a Sunday. And you're telling me the period of a gap is always 4 days. So it comes out, okay, let's do the calculation. The Rishiyach of the year, then it must be Rosh Chodesh was on Mali Shabbos, was on Erev Shabbos, because Nisan is 30 days. So that means to say 2 days later is going to be Rosh Chodesh year, which is on Erev Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is on Shabbat, is on Shabbos, because that 29 days comes out on Shabbos. Kasha Bein Rabbi Yossi ben Rabban is difficult on both opinions, because one said Sunday, one said Monday. No one said on Shabbos. So that says the Gemara, the following answer. Rabbi Yossi, according to Rabbi Yossi, Shiva Chaser Navid. What you had to do is that year they made 7 chaser, meaning usually in a perfect year it's 6 mali, 6 chaser. Because really a perfect year is 29 and a half days, but you can't make 29 and a half days because we don't go with half days. So what you have to do is 1 month is going to be 30, one's 29, one's 30, one's 29. That's how the calculation goes. That year they didn't do that. They made 7 months that were only 29 days. So therefore the gap from Pesach to Pesach was actually 3 days. So therefore, yes, Nisan from the previous year was not on a Wednesday. It was on a Thursday, which makes Rosh Chodesh on the Shabbos, which then makes Rosh Chodesh even on a Sunday. And Rashi points out that Rabbi Yossi does not hold of the Acherim, that they hold, no, you never go ahead and make another 30 or another 29, even if it's necessary. It's always going to be Mali Chasser, Mali Chasser, Mali Chasser. They don't hold like that. So 7 deficient months, 7 times 29, 203, what you're going to have is it's only be pushed back by 3 days. It's not going to be that of the difference of 4 days. It's going to be a difference of 3 days because you're not having pushed an extra day. And so to the Gemara continues, the same answer, Rabbanan, Ches Chaseim Oven. That year they hold you made 8 months of 29 days. Oh, so therefore that means say Pesach of the next year to the previous year was only a difference of 2 days. So it comes out the previous year was actually on Erev Shabbos, which means Rosh Chodesh, was Erev Shabbos. It comes Rosh Chodesh even was on a Monday because it wasn't Mali Chaser. Instead of being a difference of 4 days, was a difference of 2 days. Some of this we discussed in today's Daf on Shabbos Daf Pei Zayin was that we had asked a question. It says in the pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu was told, "V'kidashtem hayom hamacher." You should separate. That was the prisha from their wives today and tomorrow. Problem is, according to Rabbi Yossi, it wasn't today and tomorrow. It was for 3 days, not for 2 days. So according to Rabbi Yossi, you have to say that Moshe Rabbeinu added on 1 day on his own. So yes, he was told on Wednesday, today and tomorrow. That's Wednesday, Thursday. But what he said, they separate Friday too. Moshe Rabbeinu added on day on his own. As we said, there's 3 things that he did midaita. One was this thing of he had on 1 day, which because he understood hayom hamacher means just like tomorrow has its night, today also has to have its night, but it doesn't have its night. You speak to me in the middle of the day on Wednesday. So therefore must be, besides for today, there's Thursday and Friday that have the night with it. And how do we know Hashem agreed? Is because the Shekhinah only came on Shabbos in the morning, obviously agreed with them that it's going to be 3 days. He also did on his own that he separated from his wife. From a Kabbalah Chaim, if the Jewish people, who are only one-time thing, and they know when it's going to be, they have to separate from their wives. Me, who can be at all time, have to be ready. And Hashem agreed because he told them, he said, yes, you stay over here, you don't go back home like everyone else. And the third thing he did on his own was he broke the luchas. He made a kabel chemer from a mummer, which is a bit of Karban Pesach. How did Hashem agree? Because he says, Asher shibarta, which means Yasher keichacha, shibarta, that you broke it. Then we said, in the discussions regarding the calculations that we were asking in much of this daf between Rabbi Yisrael and Rabbanan, when was Matan Torah was on Vav Sivan or Zayin Sivan, so we brought the pasuk, what was Shlishi? So we brought that the Bryce was like Rabbi Yisrael was Shlishi l'Shabbos and Shlishi l'Chodesh, which is like Rabbi Yisrael, because according to Rabbanan that's not the case. The 3rd day of the week was not the 3rd day of the month. They hold that Rosh Chodesh was on a Monday. But in that discussion we brought the 2 psukim, Vayashem, Moshe, Vayagid, Moshe. We said, what is that? So in the beginning was Vayashem and then was Vayagid. And we have 2 different interpretations. What did he tell them first? Either that he first told them Devarim Shemeshavin, that repel, and then he said things that are kagada that draw them, or no, First he told them things that are mashivin, that are coming, and then he told them things that are kagim, that are bitter, like the herbs. But he had started the conversation with them, and in day 3 of that conversation was the 3rd day of the week, which is the 3rd day of the month, which goes like a piece. They went to machlekes regarding if in Morah, when they already commanded about Shabbos over there, well, they also commanded regarding Tchumen. And that would make the relevancy of, did they travel on Shabbos to Sinai? Did they leave on Refidim the same day that they got to Har Sinai? If you hold that they had Tchumen, they couldn't leave on Shabbos, so they left on Sunday and they got there on Sunday. But if you hold that they could travel, then they traveled on Shabbos already because there was no Tchumen, and then they got there only on Sunday, but they didn't leave from Refidim on Sunday too. Then we have the calculations of the days of the month regarding the Nisan, the Iyar, and the Sivan of the year that they left at Mitzvah time, which that was regarding all these calculations if Zvav or Zayin Sivan was Matan Torah on Shabbos, which was Rosh Chodesh on a Monday or a Sunday, because that's obviously the relevancy, how many days it was in the month till Shabbos being 6th or the 7th of the month, which that was the cheshbonos that we had in all these different prices to discuss and calculate. Well, obviously, if it's Moli or Chaser, this is when it's going to come out to be. And then we said, no, they were either Ma'aber, we had these different answers, being Ma'aber or being Machaser, to make these calculations that's not going to be difficult on the Pins Rabbana or Bisi. And some ideas that came up was the idea about the 10 crowns that was in the day that the Mishkan was erected, and that generally in a perfect year, from Shavuos to Shavuos, which is what's quoted in the Gemara, Atzeres Latzeres, you're only going to have a difference of 4 days. But then we said, but that year, you had either 7 or Ches Chaser, where although you usually have only 6, because you have 6 Moli and 6 Chaser, that year they added on another 1 or 2 days of 29 days versus the 30 days that's supposed to be. Thank you anytime for hosting us.